I have one right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Carver Board of Selectmen, April 8th, 2014 meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Little housekeeping. There are openings on several committees. Please contact the Selectmen's office for a listing and application. Do we have that online? Do you know, Mike?
The form?
No, the positions that are available, the committee appointments and everything?
We don't right now.
Vacancies?
We can work on getting that.
Okay, I think that might be a good idea, so people can check online and just, I'd also put a blank application on there with it, and they can download it and fill it out and send it in.
We did receive an application from someone from the Finance Committee and also someone for the Conservation Commission.
Excellent,
So we are starting to get things in.
excellent. But please contact the Selectmen's office for a listing and an application. Also, donations to the food pantry can be made at the Council on Aging or the Public Library. There is still a dire need out there. That's not going away, so please be as generous as you possibly can. And the Historic District Commission has Carveropoly games for sale for $20. Okay. Presentation of the Boston cane and proclamation to Vera Dussault, 105 years young. God bless her. If I live to be two-thirds of that, I'll probably be happy. So, what we have, Ms. Dussault could not be here with us tonight. We had some cupcakes for her, and we have a couple of plaques here for her. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna read the plaques, and then we will get them to her. And I'm gonna go up to the cane, so we can present that on TV, and people can get an idea of what that is. And I'm looking for a volunteer to assist me. And if none,
I'll help you.
oh, Elaine, you skated, Elaine. By the way,
Elaine.
many
Hey, where'd
thanks
you
to
go?
Elaine, because Elaine is the one that put all this together, as she usually
Go ahead,
does.
Lane, you can help him.
Thank you, Mr. Franny. Yeah, let's take it out so that they can get it on the camera. Okay? And what I want to do first is I want to say on behalf of the town of Carver, the Board of Selectmen wish to extend a heartfelt happy 105th birthday to Vera Dussault, born March 22, 1909. Congratulations on this amazing milestone. She has witnessed a tremendous amount of history.
She is history.
Yeah.
God bless her. Happy birthday. And we also, with the cane, we have a little plaque for also that's gonna be placed up here on the wall. On this first day of April 2014, the town of Carver, Massachusetts dedicates this Boston Post cane to Vera Dussault. In celebration of her 105th birthday, born March 22, 1909. Vera is now the oldest resident in the town.
Whoa.
God bless you, Vera. Thank you very much. We hope to see you soon. Thank you, Jack. And I'll give these to Elaine, put them in her custody so they don't get lost,
Yeah.
damaged, destroyed. Thank you, Elaine.
So now we can eat the cupcakes tonight, Elaine? She kept walking.
All right. Town Administrator update. Mr. Malinowski's gonna bring us all up to par on what's going on.
Mr. Chairman, this evening we're missing one of your members of the board who is homesick right now, which is also where the consultant that I've hired to do the IT analysis is home and has had a stomach bug for almost a week. However, since he couldn't make tonight, he did want me to have this one item that I've just sent around because he felt this is a critical issue that needs to be resolved. And this individual that we've hired has gone around and met with all of the town departments and reviewed their infrastructure from a technology standpoint, computers, hardware, internet connections, has gone over to the schools, has met with the school personnel, has met with the superintendent, and also review the technology plans that they put forward. I think, as we all know, the school received some significant support over the last few years to upgrade their whole infrastructure and build that into their system. Unfortunately, the town side is a little bit behind, and we haven't accomplished as much on our end as needs to be done. So hopefully, at our next meeting, we will have him come in and make his presentation on the detailed analysis. But again, this is one of the departments that he felt is close to failure for its current hardware and software that it's using, and vulnerable for internet activities. I did present this to the Capital Outlay Committee this afternoon. And, what he wants to do is to bring the police department into compliance. The following items need to be completed. The internet connection and firewall configuration will never meet the FBI standards and must be removed from the school network. An ICSA lab and FIPS certified firewall needs to be installed. A secure and independent wireless architecture needs to be added and configured on the network. All workstations need to be replaced and equipped with Windows 7 operating systems, and the server and server software needs to be installed to meet the FBI and the CJIS regulations and policies. He's estimating that the cost to do this is about $30,000. That breaks down to about $20,000 for hardware, about $4,000 for additional licensing fees that need to be done, and about $6,000 for labor. Again, I did meet with the Capital Outlay Committee, and we're going to be moving forward and trying to discuss how we move this forward on an expedited fashion. Again, given his review, you can read his full analysis here, but he is fully CJIS certified, which is the Criminal Justice Information Service that is sponsored by the FBI, so all information can be shared. So it's not to say there's not a lot of other critical needs in the town. There are, and those will be forthcoming at our next meeting.
Thank you. And first of all, we want to wish Dick and the consultant both a speedy recovery. Hope to see him back soon.
Through you, Mr. Chair, can I
Yes,
ask,
ma'am.
is it okay if I
Sure.
ask a question?
Yep.
Michael, when he says we'll never meet the FBI standards, is that a requirement that a police department needs to meet FBI standards?
Sure, because you can have your CJIS system revoked. And the
Okay.
CJIS system basically allows, when an officer has to go investigate an issue, that they can punch up the criminal activity or lack thereof from an individual and know, has this person have a rap sheet where he is violent, carries weapons, how many weapons?
Okay.
So they have a basic information like that. So it is a secure system, and you do have the possibility of having this revoked. And it's something that all departments must have. It's not a want, it's a must.
If it's breachable, it's a problem. So,
And one last question?
go ahead.
I know that we're working on having, as he's doing an entire analysis on the entire town, technology. Is this gonna be like just a one little piece, or is he thinking through incorporating it into whatever we purchase overall for the town? Or does the police department are they not even considered in the integration between the entire town?
No, everyone is considered in the integration. He's doing a holistic analysis that needs to be done. This is just a priority that needs to be done as quickly as possible because of potential failure. So this will be incorporated, as with all other departments, into what their needs are. I will say, from the analysis that I've discussed with him, this department is by far and individually the worst department that needs to be dealt with. Again, given the sensitivity of this, that's why we're going to try to fast track this.
Go.
Sorry, it just
Go.
led me to
Go.
another
I
question.
want to ask a question too after. she's
Everybody will
done.
get their chance.
It does sound like we have to do this, and it sounds like we have to do it without having it embedded in the whole structure. Should we be possibly putting a cushion into this in terms of what a potential interface may cost? With whatever we're going to be doing, that there's gonna be additional costs if we're just doing this, and then we go on to a system that may not have a current interface with this particular software.
Mhm.
So can we, or should we, put a cushion onto that when the capital outlay gets together?
I mean, we can put together some type of additional contingency. However, in my experience with where he's at in his analysis, that I think we'll be okay with this number. And there is gonna have to be additional funding for some of the subsequent things that need to happen. But this is really a
Priority.
more critical need that needs to be done as soon as possible. It's still gonna take another 2 weeks for this to get processed and go through the system. And by that time, we'll have him here at our next meeting, which he'll put this in context, but hopefully he'll have that one ready turnkey to move forward.
I just don't want it down the road, see like a line item on the whole technology process to say, and by the way, we have to have an additional 20,000 to bring the police department, integrated with it. That's all that I hope that doesn't happen, if we could work it into the budget now.
Yeah, I will confirm that, but I believe this is a turnkey for that department, that there won't be any future costs down the road. But I will
Right.
verify that.
Cool, thank you,
Yep. And if there is, I'll bring that back to your attention.
Thank you.
thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I was just wondering why we're hearing about the severity of this right now, because I noted that, replace it with Windows 7. The Windows operating system behind Windows 7 is XP, and that's being supported by Windows today.
Mhm.
So, in essence, the whole system's at risk with operating on XP. Why wasn't this brought up beforehand? That's my whole concern. I know you're just doing the study now, but
Yep.
why
We didn't have
didn't the police department or someone in there have this on the radar screen 6 months ago?
Sure, well, I mean, right now, the town side does not have its own IT personnel to do the planning for the foresight. Fortunately, the school is lending us, as needed, to their technology person to, in essence, fix issues, but not really to take the next step as to where the technology needs to go in the town. So this is an holistic study of what we need to do go forward. I will say on the Windows operating software you're talking about, is that software will still work fine in any other department. It'll keep on going. What Microsoft is no longer gonna do is putting in patches to upgrade the software.
right.
So if another department is operating that for another 6 months, not necessarily an issue. But again, that's only one of the elements that needs to be upgraded in the police department right now. So I don't want that Windows 7 to be why you think we need to do this. As you go through here, it's internet security, and it's also some equipment that needs to be upgraded.
But XP will only support Explorer up to Explorer 7, and they're up to like 8, 9, or 10 now. So it is a little bit of a, risky proposition for a lot of these departments that need to go on the internet or email or something, unless they're operating off
Our
the mainframe from the school,
core systems, our
which-
core data backup, our core servers where the data is stored, the heavy users in town, those systems are better protected. It's the less robust users, where there's less sensitive data, those need to be upgraded. And again, to my knowledge, this is the first effort to do this in a while. I know back when the building was built, there was a lot of effort that was done at that time, but
well, pretty much going a little bit back to what Helen was talking about. We move forward with that new accounting system. It's probably going to need to operate all the workstations on at least Windows 7. So you probably should be thinking down the line on that, like Helen was saying, and make a bigger master plan
I
of it.
think that's the purpose of the consultant, Jack, to give us the strategic view.
when he comes in and make the presentation, he'll be able to tie all that together. Again, I just received this today, he couldn't make it, but he wanted me to move forward with this because he felt it was a critical need, and that's why I'm bringing it to your
Well, I
attention.
read the other packet that you gave us.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're not bringing that up tonight, but I read that just in case we did bring it up, so.
For the soft right?
No, for the consolidation of departments,
Oh, yes. Yep. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but
okay.
Sarah?
No, I'm all set.
You all set? Okay.
So again, that's where we stand on this item.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is the MSBA update. Last Thursday, Mr. Ward, the superintendent, and one of our new committee members, Heather, and I went to Boston to meet with the MSBA group, and there were a couple items that I want to share that came out of the meeting, because they have received the majority of the data that the superintendent has put together for enrollment projections, for their maintenance plan, and other necessary backup data that's required. And they've been doing a great job in processing that. The MSBA is supportive of alternatives as we look at alternatives for the project, and they are willing to fund them partially. And that'll all be determined through the process. So they are willing to participate in the additional analysis that I believe the town needs to go through in order to have a consensus project to move forward with. However, one bit of information that has changed, and that is the enrollment projections. When the project was originally designed, it was approved by the state at 850 students plus an additional 75. That additional 75 was for pre-K and special ed. So you had a total number of 925. Based upon their current projections, and I will say that the members that went asked a lot of detailed questions, the state is now projecting that the school, the needs for the school is for 750 students, with probably the same 75 for pre-K and special ed. So in essence, the state has come back and said, based upon their algorithms and looking at the quantitative analysis, is the school needs to be designed for 100 less students than was originally proposed. We are going to need to go in and update the existing study. And again, as I said, that the MSBA will participate in that. We won't get reimbursement until that's been determined when we reach the project scope and budget phase.
What's the cost of that, Mike, do you know?
Well, right now, we're budgeting that, that to do the update, and again, we're not starting anything new, we're doing the update on the existing plan, that we're going to need at least $100,000 to complete that phase. And again, this is to update it.
Is that the feasibility study you're talking about?
Yes, it's
Okay.
because, think about it this way, when the feasibility study was done and the plan was done, it was based on a certain size building. Now the building's gonna be a little smaller. More importantly, it was costed out based upon values, 3-4 years ago. So now we have to go through that whole exercise of costing it out. Again, it's just redoing and updating the data, but that is gonna require an expense. We're also gonna need probably in the tune of around $50,000 to do the alternative analysis, and explore and have the designer explore 2 sites around the high school, which will be detailed in the Collins Center report. All in, there's probably about $200,000 of money that's going to be needed in additional money. However, the majority of that will be reimbursed once we complete the project. So you will see when we start to discuss the warrant articles that I'm going to be proposing, money for this additional design at the annual town meeting, just like I'm going to be proposing some design money for the fire station, because we're going to need some design money to keep that project moving along too. Probably in the neighborhood of at least $100,000 between now and I'm assuming we'll have a fall town meeting. So.
Do you know what the reimbursement rate would be for the, is that like the 56%?
Well, the
For the, schools.
56.1% is the base rate.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, then we have the opportunity for enhancement or bonus points based upon green design, based upon different building configurations. That'll all be determined when we get to the project scope and budget meeting. We'll determine what that final valuation is, and that'll be the number we'll have for the rest of the project.
No, I realize that, but I mean, the last time we did the feasibility, it was at the base rate, I think.
Yeah,
The reimbursement was.
You know, I believe that we'll clearly be ending well over 60% when our final number's done. What that final ends up being, I don't know at this point. And nor will I.
I was
until we-
only referring to feasibility
Oh,
study,
just the
not to the
base rate.
total project.
No, actually, that piece is eligible for the bonus points as well, because we'll
is?
be doing that
Okay.
at the project scope phase. So the point is that was a very productive meeting that we had, and the new school building committee is gonna have its first meeting on April 21st. We're gonna be meeting over at the elementary school, and again, that committee has been appointed with 11 voting members. And also, just while we're on topics of buildings, the fire station building study committee is gonna meet this Thursday and have their first meeting.
And those are both open to the public.
Those are both open to the public, and that was announced last night at the association, the Firefighters Association dinner.
So where will the fire station building committee meet and be?
I believe we've scheduled it for this building, but I have to confirm that.
It's not,
Actually, you know what?
is it at the central fire station?
I take that back. I think we did schedule that at the fire station.
Because that's not handicap accessible.
Well, I will double check that.
Okay.
Sarah, any questions for me? Helen?
Where can we get a list of the committee members? Online?
Yeah. Didn't I pass those out last meeting? I think I said them, I didn't
You
pass them
read,
out.
you read them out.
Yeah, I will get those to you. Jack, we'll double check on the posting and if, and we'll make sure that the site is handicap accessible.
Just if our friend from WATD wanted to go there, he wouldn't be able to.
It's a good point.
So, Mr. Chairman, that's my update on the MSBA, and again,
Okay.
that's moving forward very well, in my opinion. Let's see, I'm gonna skip the Antero thing for a moment if I could, just because I'm waiting for Jack Hunter to come in and talk about that. On the SoftWrite software that the board approved last week, we brought that to the Finance Committee last night. We had the consultant come in. The consultant also met with the schools in the afternoon. The schools are fully behind this conversion. The Finance Committee voted to support and fund the initial phase of the project that's needed for this fiscal year. They had a contingency in their vote that they wanted to just run by the Capital Advisory Committee, just so they were aware of it, and I had been meeting with the chairman on that, but this evening, also the Capital Outlay Committee voted to support the SoftWrite, so I'm gonna move forward with entering into a contract to get that new software package up and running.
Excellent. Any questions by anybody on the board?
Is that subject to the procurement law?
It's on a state bid list,
Okay.
and as you know, with the state bid list, there's
Oh,
an
yeah.
extra percentage cost with that.
Yeah.
So that's factored into the price that we have.
As long as it's on the state bid list, you're covered under the procurement law.
Correct. If I could, I think I'm gonna jump to the Capital Stabilization Fund. All right, actually, we're gonna do a Lantero, but now that Jack's here. And then I'll go in order. Come on up, Jack.
I was at the historic.
2 meetings ago, the board voted to send a notice to Antero that the project had passed its deadlines to move forward, and we were to give them official notice on their right to cure the project. With that, Mr. Hunter and I have had multiple meetings with Antero, and they have come back with a proposal that we want to bring to the Board of Selectmen for an extension agreement that we would ask your support for. and I'm gonna have Jack go over that. Oh, you got a copy.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Essentially, one of the reasons we asked for the termination, well, there are several reasons. One is they weren't doing anything, and it was sitting there, and you're under contract, and no progress had been made for, gosh, over 2 years. A second reason I recall and know is that because it was tying up some of your capacity that maybe you could use somewhere else, like a school roof. And then the third one was that hopefully we'll have some energy savings measures over the next few years, which will reduce our electricity load. And so those were the three concerns. We met with them, like the town administrator said, several times. They've made a very compelling case to at least Michael and I that they'd be willing to reduce the projects fairly significantly, almost by 50%. They'd be willing to pay.
And let me just jump in there, that reduction of the project is how much we're buying, not the size of the project.
Yeah, he can sell anywhere he wants. He has a building permit for 1.2 megawatts right now. He can go build it tomorrow if he wishes. But he can't sell us any electricity until this agreement's made. But I know, Michael wasn't with Conversations today. He has no intention of building anything but 700 kilowatts, but he could. He would also pay $1,000 a month through the 6-month extension period as a fee or penalty to the town. He would also pay an outstanding bill he has to the planning board, which I had been billing him for 1.5 years on. He would also, and if the cure, as I call it, can be made, in other words, if he can make the project work within that 6-month period, or he can't, he would be able to notify us, and then the 6-month extension would be terminated. He is under the belief that, from NSTAR, that the cost, which was at $1 million, is gonna be significantly removed down to almost 125,000, I think he said, Michael? Which is a big deal, obviously. So he thinks he can make this project work. He also, number 6, is willing to share any revenues if the net metering credit prices increase over 3% per year with the town. And he's willing to share 25% of that, which is a big deal. In other words, if the speculation and energy prices go up, you start making even more money than you've negotiated today. And then he's also willing, and I think this is a new notion we've talked about this at staff meetings, department head meetings, willing to go into a pilot agreement. He's currently not in one. And a pilot agreement's payment in lieu of taxes. And the reason we're encouraging these things now, and I think you're gonna see more and more, is because we don't know what the state legislature is gonna do about taxing these renewable energy. They may tell you you can't tax it. And if you're in a pilot agreement, at least you're getting something. And Jack knows exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of rumors in the state legislature to encourage renewable energy. They're gonna mandate that towns can't tax them or have very little taxable property. So we think, before I didn't like pilots. I thought they were getting away with something, but now I think it's to protect us.
Yeah.
So I guess Michael and I were fine with this. If you're fine with it, we think also, I should add one other thing, is, I don't have to tell you guys, the cranberry industry isn't doing very well. This may be an alternative for them to keep the bogs alive, have a renewable energy source, and make some income. We're not gonna be buying anybody's electricity anymore, but, and it's all taxable. So there may be a future and so I treat this a little bit like a pilot project or a test project that we haven't seen in the Commonwealth or anywhere else that I know of.
So if the board agrees to support our recommendation to support these terms, We'll be drawing up a legal contract that'll reflect these terms, and then at some point, just having the board sign off on that, which you wouldn't need to vote on again if you authorize this negotiation or the contract to reflect these terms.
I'll make a motion that we support what's been presented in front of us.
The amended net metering credit agreement. I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further comments, questions,
I do.
concerns?
I have a few questions,
Okay.
if you don't mind. Jack, what was the cause for the delay? In other words, these 6 months, what's going to make the difference in 6 months?
I can tell you. Right now, he has an approved, what they call interconnection service agreement that he hasn't signed from NSTAR. Every renewable energy project has to get that from NSTAR. And what that is here's what it's going to cost you to hook up to our grid and all the improvements you have to make in our system to make your project fit into our system. I don't know the engineering. That price tag was $1 million, and it blew him right out of the water. That's the delay. He now has, and he showed us the correspondence. He received correspondence from NSTAR that a lot of projects that were in the way, so to speak, have now dropped out, and that he is under the understanding that the cost is down to about $125,000.
From $1 million?
Yes. So it's that reason he believes, so he has to again apply for a new interconnection service agreement. Once he gets that, if it's $125,000 and his model works for him, he'll come back to you guys and say, hey, I'm ready to go. We'll terminate the extension and he's off and running and building. Or he'll say, I can't do it. We terminate the extension and we terminate the contract.
Okay. I just had 2 other questions. Do you guys want to ask a question in between?
I'll let you answer them, then I'll ask
Okay,
them.
because that last statement just led me to a 3rd question. But my second question is how did you come up with the $1,000 per 6 months?
Maybe
it was a
Michael's
lot
gonna
of-
answer that one.
It was a lot of give and take.
Okay,
We had a higher number, he had no number, he then had a number, we had a number lower than a higher number.
so you didn't do any calculations per se, you just kind of like,
I can speak a little about that. The rationale was to offset the legal costs you've had already, and you're
Okay.
gonna incur, if this works, it'll be nominal, but,
Yeah.
you know.
We'll pay for the contract and all the rest of the
Right,
stuff.
right.
Yeah. And he's under no obligation to do that, and we're under no obligation to extend it.
okay,
So it's a business decision
gotcha.
that we have some cost and we need to have some payment in order to do that.
My only recommendation that I'd like to see, I don't know about my fellow selectmen, but money seems to always be the concern with these projects. You know, the $1 million was holding them up, and there's a little concern that so many projects have dropped out that NSTAR can now reduce this from 1 million to 125, which still leaves a concern in my head, why are so many projects dropping out? Is it money, et cetera? So my recommendation would be, is on number 5, if they terminate prior to the 6 months, I think we should still be entitled to the entire 6 months.
I could ask that.
And
That's
and if
gonna
you could
be an
even put any
amendment.
of that into escrow, because,
How much would that amount to?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know when they're gonna be ready to go. He told us once he submits, NSTAR has to give him an answer within 75 days. But it's also gonna take him some prep time to get his engineers up and running. So I'm guesstimating 4, 5 months, so we're not talking about a big number here. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, to answer Helen's question, I know the 2 of the projects that have dropped out. One was Ellis Haven, the campground was ahead of him for a very large project, and the other one was Makepeace. They dropped out. They were entertaining a project on South Meadow Road.
Different
So
location.
they never came to us, but they evidently went to NSTAR.
Are we talking about the parcel of land that?
Yep.
And if I can go back to that point, because we did have that discussion on when the termination is. You know, as Jack's saying, it's gonna take him a little while to get his engineers up and running, and then submit the payment, and then they have 75 days to return it. So you're 4 months into it before he gets the answer. And our worst-case scenario, if you're looking at the $1,000, is we get $4,000 versus the extra two. And again, we were going back and forth on numbers, so we just decided that we know he's in for 4 months, and if he leaves in month 5, that's okay. So that's why we put that in there, that either side can back out at any point. So there was some thought into that piece, and again, as you know, there was some horse trading going back and forth on the value of that. And
Well, technically, they're paying for the right to hold us up and delay us
That's right.
from having the ability to go out and negotiate with somebody else.
Absolutely.
So I kind of
Right.
agree with Helen. I think that 6-month fee should stay in place.
Not a lot of money,
I don't
Yeah.
think it's a big deal,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
We
you'll
can
need
use
to
them up.
amend that
we can use it.
right, okay.
under motion.
Helen,
Can you amend the motion?
I will.
are you done, Helen?
I am,
Okay.
thank you.
Jack?
The $4,000
Yep.
that they owe, it's owed to the planning board or to
Yes.
the town?
It's for our review and inspection account.
So it's running a deficit from what,
Right, we have a condition on the planning board that he cannot, well, because this is a solar, usually we do it by an occupancy permit, but
Yeah.
because this is a solar project, it's by, final approval by the electrical inspector, that he has to pay this, but I wanna get it now.
yeah, because don't you generally get money up front?
Oh, yeah,
You
we
can pay
did,
the-
but we went through that, because this was a complicated project, very complicated. We had a lot of issues with conservation and DEP, and, you know, there was a lot, no one's ever done this before, so we had a lot of.
So, we were gonna buy X amount of power from them, but now that's been cut in half.
Just about, a little less than half, yeah.
Well, so will that influence the town once they get into something else?
That's the good news. Right now, you're contracted to 2.6 megawatts. You have a capacity of pure electricity at 3 megawatts, but you have what this term, we keep talking about, gross up
Yeah,
of another megawatt. And that's that carrying charges you have on your bill that isn't really electricity, but can be used for net metering, with net metering credits. So you have about 4. This would get you to 3.3 and give you 700 kilowatts to have with savings, a roof, whatever.
School, right.
School, yeah, if you choose to do that.
Yeah.
So and you're gonna get taxes here that you would never see.
Good. Jack?
so what's the amendment, Helen?
How
You
do we
can
word
say it,
this?
and I'll say that that's
Thanks.
part of my
Make a
amendment.
motion to approve the amended net metering credit agreement with Intero?
With a further amendment to incorporate us getting paid the entire 6 months if they should terminate the project prior to the 6-month.
Perfect.
That's what I said.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did, Jack.
Thank
All
God
right,
I
so
had
we have a
coffee.
motion. We have an amended motion. Do we have a second?
Second. Oh, wait a minute, no, you made the
Jack
motion.
made
I made the motion, do you want a second it,
6 months.
Sarah?
I thought Helen just did.
Oh, okay.
She did. Sarah, did you have any questions about this thing?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, I mean, since you talked about agriculture too, Jack, and
Yeah.
how this might set a positive precedent for growers in the near future, I just wanted to not penalize them. I'm concerned about, making him pay for the whole 6 months, even if he drops out, but you don't think that's a
My
huge...
conversations today, I think we're probably only talking about 1 month at most. These things, as we all have learned, take a long time. I just can't believe that would be a big deal after
Okay.
my discussions all day today.
Because I would hate to see it fail. I mean, as you say, after all we went through.
I'm gonna say this, if that's gonna be a deal breaker, then
We got a problem.
we got a
We are.
problem. And I'll have to
Good.
come back in May or
Good.
April
It's just a
27th.
little more horse trading, that's
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Good, okay. Thank you.
I really don't think it is.
Anything
Don't
else?
you have to come back so we can do the final contract and vote on it?
No, once you vote tonight, you can execute the
Of
contract
the
later.
extension.
Okay,
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second, an amended motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, I want to spend some time talking about the capital stabilization fund and the building stabilization fund. back when the board approved its financial management policies, one of the elements in those policies is for the town to eventually grow a pool of money that will be equal to about 10% of the town's revenue for the town to fund its infrastructure expenses. Infrastructure expenses in that scenario are defined as buildings and also the equipment and the support structures around. It could be a parking lot, so it's buildings, roads, parking lots, fields, and equipment, generators, et cetera. Because that's a standard that a community should be investing to maintain its infrastructure base. Now, back in 2011, the town created a building stabilization fund. And in that, the focus of that fund was to primarily put in the new personal property taxes into that fund, which I think was a great idea. And the reason for that is that your personal property taxes in this town fluctuate drastically from year to year. We've had years that are below 50,000, we've had years that are over 700,000. This year, we're projecting to have 360,000, primarily due to a lot of infrastructure work that NSTAR is doing on its power lines. If we look at a 10-year historic average, it's about $55,000 when you take out some anomalies. But that money was to be set aside for funding the fire station, for funding the police station. And again, I believe that was a great start to put the right type of money into a fund that would be recurring. Because you don't want to build an operational base on numbers that fluctuate as drastically as personal property. And since the town needed to invest more in itself, again, you have to build up the fund. That's the best source of revenue to do that. What I have been proposing and talking about at several selectmen's meetings and with Finance and Capital Outlay Committee and members of the building fund committee is to broaden the scope from the building stabilization fund to also include, if you will, capital outlay items, so that it's more of a comprehensive infrastructure funding mechanism. Again, right now, it's focused on buildings. That's a great start. Now I want to add, I'm proposing to add to that so it would include capital outlay items. My primary concern for that is that when I did some of the analysis of the town's revenue, which we know is tight, that the town has done a very good job in maintaining its equipment and buying new equipment on a regular basis. But by delegating or putting all of the personal property and other revenue into this building stabilization fund, the town would be at risk of having a source to fund some of the capital outlay items. So we may eventually build great new buildings, but not be able to buy a police car, a school bus, or a fire engine. So again, by broadening the scope, I think we can accomplish that following some very good financial discipline. So with that, I have this chart here to kind of show the mechanics of how this is being proposed. And if I could draw your attention to the spreadsheet. The top side, if you will, is the revenue. The bottom side would be the expenses. I'm going to focus right now on the top half of this, which is the revenue coming in. And again, some of these numbers we're still fiddling with. When I say fiddling, we're still waiting for some final confirmation on, but the methodology will not change based upon which I will be recommending to the selectmen for you guys to move forward to town meeting. If we look when the fund was started in 2011, there was $1 that was put in there. In FY12, there was 80,000. In FY13, there was 100,000, and in FY14, there was 400,000. Now, I understand that there may have been more money that should have been put in there may have been less. That's the past, I can't do anything about that. What I need to focus on is what's in the fund today. And what's in the fund today is $586,000. So that's the top number you see there in the top left. So in essence, that's what's in there today, that's what the tax revenue has funded. So for 2015, we would put in the 586, and then we would increase that by the 2.5%, which is, since we tax to the levy because of all our financial issues, that's what we do. That comes out to $14,000. In FY15, we're anticipating $360,000 in new growth, primarily from NSTAR. We have some debt roll-off of last year of $11,000. We are currently today, for FY15, we will have a total of $878,000 in debt. That debt is broken up into three categories. Long-term debt, which is bonding and borrowing that's been done. House notes, which are short-term borrowings. And then capital leases, where we have, where Carver has focused on buying a lot of its equipment instead of paying cash or bonding it. You have chosen to go through the capital lease process. And again, that was brought up in our audit, is there are some opportunities of saving potentially a point or two in interest cost by doing it a different mechanism. But again, that's water over the dam. This is what you owe. And that's the $878,000. So when you total all of those items up, it comes to $1.85 million. Again, this is different money. This isn't operating money. This is capital money. This is money that should should not be used for operating, because once you use it there, it goes away and you never get it back. Now you take that $1.85 million, and this is just to show where the math goes. If you move that up diagonally to the right, then in 2016, you can have the $1.85 million, plus the 2.5% growth on that number, which is $46,000, plus what personal property new growth will come in that year. Now, I've put down the 55,688, which is the number that's in the Collins Center report. That's, again, a 10-year average, taking out the outliers. The number every year will be different, but to just give a forecast, that's kind of a low average, if you will. So, again, next year it could be $30,000 or it could be $200,000. It doesn't matter what the number is, it's just that that money is earmarked to go into this category. And then if you go to 2017, you can follow the math. It just takes the 1.9 diagonally up to the right, add your 2.5%, add your new growth, and there's your new number, and so on, and so on, and so on. As you see, at this rate, by the time you get to 2025, you would have built up a fund of $3 million, which today is close to 10%, but out there it won't be. So that's the revenue side. That creates the money for the fund. Now, when we talk about the fund, what I've talked about is the first priority of the fund is to pay for debt service that the town has. The second priority is to reserve an amount for next year. So in case there's an issue, that you have some money reserved for the following year that's built into the fund. The residual of that, so the delta after those two subtractions are done, is what money you would have available on a year-to-year basis for funding either new debt or new one-time purchases. So let's go through the math. In that first column, again, our revenue is the $1.8 million. We subtract out there the debt service for the town hall. As you see, that's ending in 3 years. You subtract out the library debt service, which is ending in 3 years. You subtract out the house notes, which ends this year. At some point, we're going to put a number in here for the fire station. At some point, we may put a small number in here for the elementary school and/or for the police station. You subtract out our capital leases. This is what we owe in capital leases out through 2021. So these are already, consider this debt. We have a legal contract to pay these leases. Yes, we may be paying a point or two more, but it's still our obligation to do that. So again, in that first column, when you get down to the $972,000, in essence, that's what you're going to have available for funding new capital projects. New debt service for the fire station, new buses, new technology upgrades, you know, whatever the priorities are of the town, you will now have a revenue stream to fund those. So hypothetically, if we play this out, in the $972,000, and I'm gonna just do easy math, you save the 72,358 just to have as a reserve. You take $500,000 for the debt service for the fire station, that would leave $400,000 left over. Then capital outlay would have $400,000 to figure out what their priorities are as they've gone through it and fund their first $400,000. And that becomes the revenue source for funding that town-wide equipment. Again, it doesn't matter whether it's school, fire, police, DPW, it creates the fund to do that. As you see, now this is a static example in time. It assumes that we're not gonna borrow any more money, which we know we're going to. It assumes that there's not gonna be any more capital leases. And you can, again, see how the fund builds up, that assuming you borrow nothing else in 2022, you'd have $2.6 million to spend on equipment or a new roof of a school. And you'd have it in cash to do that. Again, that's not gonna play out that way, but
Because you
this
don't have the
creates
fire
a
department
process.
debt in there, that's why.
Well, that's correct. I
You
mean,
know.
that's why I said, assuming you don't have it. But again, this is the model to show how the numbers would play. Every year they're going to change because the personal property will be different. So that'll be rolled in there, and then we'll have different expenses because we have a lot of infrastructure equipment that we need to go through. But again, this is, I think, a more detailed analysis of what we've been talking about.
So believe it or not, in municipal finance, they encourage you to have a certain degree of debt on your books. And if you look at our debt that we have here, it's, believe it or not, dangerously low. I know as, in personal
Abnormally
finance,
low.
you want to keep the debt out of the picture, but in municipal finance, you want to have a certain degree of debt in there. I think it shows a commitment on the part of the town to reinvest in the infrastructure.
And to pick up on that, Jack, I mean,
Yeah.
what the bond rating agencies or others will look at is they'll say, oh, that's all they have in debt?
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute, do they have a bunch of cash in the bank, so they're paying everything out of cash? They look at that and see, no, they only have less than $1 million in their stabilization. So then that leads them to believe, oh, this community doesn't invest in its infrastructure. I mean,
Well,
that's
they
the
look- they look
deduction
at
they'll go
it.
through.
All I gotta do is read the Clipping Service and see that
Well,
the condition of the elementary school, the police station, the fire station, and
Well, this
Now
could
even the high
conceivably
school.
enhance our bond rating too, right? Which might make borrowing even less expensive.
yes, because now you've put together fiscal discipline.
Right.
You have town meeting establish a new stabilization fund. You use that to fund all of your capital items. You have a target that you wanna raise your revenue to invest in your infrastructure. I mean, keep in mind, Carver has $47 million liability in OPEB. We have a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built. We have to develop financial discipline as to how to solve our problems. That's what the bond rating agency is gonna look for. More importantly, they don't want you to just say you're gonna do it. They're gonna wanna look at you demonstrating you've
yeah.
done that.
Excellent. Outstanding. Any
so
further?
you said that you wanted to expand out the purpose of the capital stabilization fund to include,
Capital outlay items.
yeah. So do you need to put an article in front of town meeting for that? Because we
Yes.
voted that.
What I would be recommending to the board is that we'd be crafting a new article that would create this new stabilization account, establish some policies for it so that everyone knows what it is. Those policies, you know, we would be looking to follow up year over year. Again, this is establishing a practice going forward. There is the existing building stabilization fund. What I would be proposing, so this is going forward. Okay?
Yes.
So my proposal is 2015, this is how we do things going forward. I think it satisfies the primary objective, which the Building Stabilization Fund tried to do and did do, and it opens it up for other funding alternatives and puts all new revenue into this for personal property. As far as the existing Building Stabilization Fund, we are going to have to go through some significant design efforts on both the school and the fire station. Again, you've heard me talk that we're gonna need at least probably around $200,000 to complete the MSB portion of the school project. We don't need to borrow that, because we already have that set aside in the building stabilization fund, so I would be proposing that we use $200,000 out of that to fund that. We would be looking for potentially $100,000 to fund the preliminary design of the fire station, to move that along and hire an OPM for the project. I'm gonna talk a little later about our governance committee meeting this morning, and the facilitator that we've hired to look at DPW and facilities, and their recommendation is that we hire a town owner's project manager to help the town manage these two massive construction projects, that's solely responsible to the town, not responsible to the state. And this expert's opinion is he's saved orders of magnitude of money from doing that. My point being is those types of items, I would propose those come out of the building stabilization fund, because they're tied into the design for those buildings, and eventually work that account down to zero while this new process moves forward.
Questions?
In that report that you gave us that we're not discussing tonight, it did mention about the different projects, little projects that need to be done, like the roof at the high school and some other things, and that they would be, might also be eligible for reimbursement from the MSBA. Is this what this person would be involved in, that as well?
Yes, they could be involved in that, and to drill down in some of the detail is that, yes, if we're looking at boiler, windows, and roof, some of those elements could be reimbursed by the state, particularly on the high school. We know we have to build a new roof on there. That's a $2 million investment. We know we have to upgrade the sewer septic treatment facility. That's potentially a $2 million upgrade. Those items potentially, or at least the town share of the first one, for the windows, boiler, and roof, could be, the town share could be funded out of this mechanism.
Yep.
Well, what I was getting at there, he did mention in there that the leaks in the roof could contribute to the growth of mold. And if you have mold in the building, you might have to shut it down. So I think it's something that needs to be addressed right away, if that's what their concern is.
We're looking at some detail on the roof right now, but, you know, as part of where I said I would use some of the, propose to use some of the design money out of the building stabilization fund, we may look to actually, you know, have some $10,000 or $20,000 released to start the roof process, to replace that and prepare bid documents to move that along. When Mr. Hunter was here, you know, one of the scenarios that we want to explore is that if we're going to replace the roof on the high school, why don't we take a hard look at putting solar panels on the high school?
Mhm.
We talked to the fire chief about that, and there's some design issues we can work around. But maybe that can help offset some of the cost of the roof, let alone potential energy savings that would be there. Again, these are a bunch of moving parts that we have into play. I will say, and I want to give credit where credit's due, is the town is very fortunate to have their facility managers over the school that does a phenomenal job with his Army of One. And he's been able to keep everything running, but he has a lot on his plate. And this OPM, as you saw in the study, is the ability of providing him some technical assistance to help manage the projects, and me, and also Jerry here on the town side, and the fire chief, as we move forward.
In that discussion, it mentioned I don't know how many people he has, but he has no foreman, and he has no secretary.
Correct.
And he does this phenomenal amount of work. And it also mentioned that he's involved in other activities that he shouldn't be involved in. So all of this stuff coming to light is important for the town, because it all contributes to the, you know, your facilities management. You know, maybe in the future, we won't have a school that's deteriorated as much as the elementary school has, if we've taken the steps to put things and do the work ahead of time.
Well, I come from the school, from not the school, but the School of Municipal Management, that the priority should be to maintain the infrastructure. I'm not saying you build the Taj Mahal, but you
No.
build good bones and you maintain it. And if you stop maintaining it, and if you don't repair your roof, it costs you 10 times the money down the road because of lack of maintenance. And that's why we went forward and hired this consultant to come in and put this report together, that he met with the governance committee this morning, to look at having a town-wide infrastructure department. Now, it's not gonna happen overnight, and it may be a year process before we can get to that point, but in your financial management policies that you approved, it talks about the superintendent and the town administrator looking at areas where there's duplication of services. This is the primary one. Rick LaFond and the superintendent started talking about this 2 years ago, as I recently found out. So it's not a new topic, it's just trying to figure out how it works. And if we have a town-wide infrastructure, we have economies of scale. We can have one bid for all of our elevators versus 2 separate bids that we have right now. And that goes on for all our other professional trades. HVAC, now maybe we need to hire someone part-time on staff to maintain those versus contracting those out at $200 an hour. And then obviously bigger calls on the weekends. So this report, which I will talk to you later about, and we'll get into the governance committee component, this outlines many different avenues for the town to begin to explore how to maintain its infrastructure base. Yes, it is gonna have to spend some more money to do that, but in the long term, it's gonna pay off. And that gets into a whole life cycle cost.
And the report was very well written. I hope more people read it because it compares us to other school systems and what they're paying per square foot, so it's important information that I think the town needs to be familiarize itself with.
And again, I'm used to having a town-wide facility department, not a town facility and a school facility. I'm used to having the big thing, because you want that economies of scale. You want to have professionals that they're just focused on the buildings, and that's the priority, because that has to be their priority. And this starts to talk about that.
And it looked like all the people that were involved, you know, the DPW superintendent, you know, Jerry Farquharson, they were all very cooperative in opening up their books and, you know, not leaving any stone unturned, so,
Is this the document we weren't gonna talk about?
yeah, that we did.
Not yet.
Because I
On the
don't know,
agenda yet.
I don't know if you guys read it yet.
Thank you. Okay,
But since we're talking about it, might as well pass it out.
You already gave it
I
to
think
us.
you have it in email, but here's a hard copy.
give everybody an
gave us copies
opportunity
of it.
to
It's
read
in
it.
our
and-
Oh,
packet.
it already put it in your packet? Well,
It's in our
then,
packet.
see, look at that, I'll save some trees.
No, I'll take an extra copy.
Okay.
Unless they didn't bring it with them.
Yep.
Mine says draft on it, so.
They
They
should
all
all
do.
say draft on it. Is there any more questions on, now again, I want to emphasize, some of the numbers may change before this is in final form, but the concept, the policy, the direction
Yeah, I like the
that's being
concept.
proposed, are there any questions or concerns or issues on that? Because if so, I'd like to make sure we talk about them now, because, you know, I want to move forward in this direction if there's no objections.
I think it's great. We finally have some strategic planning
Yep.
being conducted. Gives everybody something, at least, something to focus on and plan for, and, you know, the numbers are gonna fluctuate a little bit here and there, but, you know, at least it gives a well-organized picture of, what we could have down the road going for us, so. I think it's great.
Yep.
Good.
Anybody else?
I already, yeah, I
Super.
supported it, yeah.
Do you want to take a motion to support that direction, just so that it's, because I've got to do a lot of work on this now.
So moved.
We have a motion, let's spell it out for Elaine.
Are we
I'll-
talking about the capital stabilization?
Stabilization fund.
I'll make a motion to support the capital stabilization fund plan and the next steps that, the town administrator would like to work on. Is that
I'll
good?
second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further comments, questions, concerns, recommendations?
Just a quick question. You said you had run all this by the capital outlay committee, and they like it?
Preliminary feedback is positive. Again, still got to work on some of the details, but, you know, now is when you get into the details. So it's still, you know, you'll still get another crack at this. It's just for me to start to program my time to really flush out the nuts and bolts of this, make sure there's inclusion with everybody that's gonna have a part into it, so that my goal would be is, when we get to town meeting, is Finance Committee, Capital Outlay, Board of Selectmen, maybe even the school committee, all say we
How
support
about
this.
the building, the town building
Them too.
study?
Everybody.
Okay.
Good. Onward.
No, we didn't vote.
That's what I mean.
Oh,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
you forgot.
You gotta be quick.
Since there's already been a little bit of discussion on this feasibility study that you have in your packet, this just came out this weekend. And yeah, so far, just to give you an order of magnitude, this study has cost less than $6,000. And you can see by the breadth of this that there's been a couple hundred hours that have been invested into this. The individual that wrote the report has put together consolidation and reorganization plans for at least 6 different communities. And he managed the town of Andover's consolidated infrastructure department for 15, 20 years. And if you will, he's kind of the expert in the state on this. He's retired. And he was here this morning at 6:30 a.m. when Mr. Ward continued to get sick, but he was here at the first meeting. So we hired him to take a look at analyzing the current structure of the town as it related to infrastructure and facilities. He met with Jerry, he toured all of the town buildings. He met with John Woods, and he toured all of the DPW facilities around town, including the vehicle maintenance area. He met with Dave S. I just give up on
Siegenthoff.
that. I know, but I'm just giving a Siegenthoff.
I hope
Yeah.
I said it right, too.
And he toured all of the school facilities. He met with the superintendent. He went with the business manager. I've met with him a couple times. So he's received all of the input from all the parties. And with that, this morning, the governance committee, who has been charged with exploring and vetting, if you will, these preliminary concepts and helping to craft a final recommendation, if there is going to be one, to town meeting, met with Dave, Jerry, and John this morning to hear their thoughts, followed by the presentation from the consultant. And this is still a draft of the report. He's going to be doing some additional work. But he has come back with the recommendation that it's going to take more than a few months to merge all the departments into one. He is clear that there are going to be a lot of benefits of doing that. And they're listed kind of here on page 14. Labor efficiencies by combining similar functions. Savings from consolidated purchasing of supplies and services. Standardizing building cleaning and maintenance. Improving preventative maintenance for buildings and public works. Support staff to implement townwide energy management and maintain the town fuel dispensary system with secure access controls. Budget visibility to promote investing in townwide buildings and public infrastructure. Again, investment in the infrastructure always needs to be a priority, no matter how tough the times are. You have to stick with that,
What
because
page
you're
you
in
want?
here for eternity.
14, John.
14.
Page 14. Professional management to oversee these functions. Project management support. Again, this is the support that I was talking about, to come in and help us on a temporary basis with these new constructions that are happening. And single point for building and public works as they go forward with the capital projects evaluation and priorities. He is of the belief that the best way to move forward with this is to do it in 2 phases. The first phase for this annual town meeting would be to combine the town facilities, buildings and ground committee with the town DPW and move that into one department. Have a commitment that's made where the town desires to have a centralized infrastructure department. that there'll be a proposal presented at next year's annual town meeting as to how that will be done and the implementation of that, which means over the next 12 months, the school and the town will need to work on putting together an implementation plan with all the key stakeholders. Exploring the funding mechanisms to maintain this. And there are some areas where there may be some additional short-term cost to make this happen, but he is now gonna start to quantify what the long-term savings are gonna be for doing that. So initially, in year two, is we may not have any savings, but we will set up the structure to better maintain, have all these efficiencies that will produce savings in other categories, other expenses, other services, other repairs. So this is still a draft document. Again, he's got more work to do. The governance committee is gonna be meeting next week to continue the discussion. And again, their process, the 5 gentlemen that are on that, is to vet this whole thing. And what they would like to do is to come back, probably not for another 2 or 3 weeks, in front of the selectmen and make their preliminary recommendations as to what they see, what they've reviewed, and the direction that they think the town should consider. Get feedback from the selectmen and go back and further refine that based upon the input that they receive. So there's a very diligent process that's being involved into this. We're taking our time, even though we don't have much time. We're bringing in the resources to help analyze this, put together a real, Class A report. And, at the end of the day, it's up to the townspeople to determine if that's how they want to manage their infrastructure.
Can I ask you a question? The first phase is gonna be to combine the Building Facilities Department and Town Hall with the DPW, is that what you said?
DPW.
Correct.
And the DPW reports to an elected Board of DPW Commissioners.
Chapter 5.
So how is that gonna work?
Well, as you know, right now, no one has taken papers out to run for the current DPW position that's coming available. The governance committee is looking at that committee. They met and had some discussion on that this morning. And they're gonna have some further discussions next week to determine if they wanna make a recommendation that the town dissolve the DPW commission. But again, they're going through the due diligence.
The remaining 2 members?
They had tried to have one come in this morning, and he didn't make it. So they're going to continue that to next week to get his input, as well as they're reaching out to the former DPW Superintendent Bill Hannon to get, Hellion, sorry. See, I'm terrible.
You're trying.
I'm trying.
Just call him Big Bill, everyone knows him
All
as
right, Big Bill, to give his thoughts on this as well. So again, it's part of a deliberate process they're going
More appropriate to
through.
talk to the elected members that you're thinking of eliminating.
Correct.
Are we good?
I think so.
Considering that was the document we weren't gonna talk about?
Well, I was gonna do it on governance committee, but we kinda got ahead of there beforehand.
Okay, let's move along.
Sure. The last item that we have is the police injured on duty revolving account. That was set by town meeting at $75,000. This is a fund that money comes in as a result of the insurance agency, and then we spend the money out, and we need to increase that amount to $80,000? To $80,000. So I need a vote to authorize to increase that to $80,000.
I'll make a motion that we increase the police injured on duty account to $80,000, adding 5,000 to it. Will that be sufficient to carry it through the rest of the year?
I probably not. I'll probably have to come back again, but I don't have any other numbers right now. I mean, if you wanna make it 10 more, that's probably get us a lot closer.
And bear in mind, this is a revolving account, so this isn't costing the town $80,000. This is money coming in.
From the insurance
We only
companies.
authorized them that they could spend $75,000.
Then you should make it the 90, so we don't have to keep coming back. What do you think?
It's up to you, I have to abstain
Oh,
from
you have to
this.
abstain.
I
Yeah,
think
I'll-
that's reasonable.
You think 90,000's good?
I think it's much better than
I'll
80.
change my motion to add 15,000 to it, to bring it up to 90,000. That should cover us to the end of the year.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Further conversation, comments, recommendations, concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And one abstention. 301. Okay. Board of Selectmen comment period. Serpent reappointments. Board of Selectmen rep is Jack Hunter. And he's also gonna be the Joint Transportation Planning Group delegate also.
Does he mind serving in that capacity again? Probably not, but,
He does not, and what I'd also like to do is you can have an alternate on the JTPG, and I'd like to have John Woods be the alternate, so that Jack can work with John, over a period of time, and at some point, John could take that role over.
Sure.
Because it ties more into transportation,
Transportation,
regional
yeah.
transportation. But again, over time, I think.
John in favor of that as well?
That's what John needs to do. So, I would like to have
Okay,
John
I'll
do this.
make my motion that
Thank
we reappoint the existing people in the positions that they're in and add John Woods as the alternate.
Alternate for the JPTG, yeah.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Do you have that, Elaine? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Further comments, questions, concerns?
Jack Hunter is the Board of Selectmen's
He is.
representative.
He is.
Bruce Mackey is the Planning Board representative. And Peter Donnelly is the JTPG delegate.
Yeah, but
John
Peter
Woods.
is not gonna be continuing as a JPD.
Oh, he's not?
No, that's
I
why
just
Jack,
voted to reappoint him.
to appoint Jack to his original Serpent plus,
No, I said the present people's servant, so
okay.
who's gonna be the oh, Jack Hunter's gonna be the
Jack
delegate.
Hunter is gonna, yeah,
Okay.
he's gonna replace Peter on that.
And John Woods will be the alternate.
And John will be the alternate for the JPTG.
Get that, Elaine?
She had that. The only one that didn't have that, Jack, was you.
Well, I don't go in the Board of Selectmen's office and discuss things ahead of time.
All right. Any further questions, comments, concerns, recommendations? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, moving along. Governance Committee update, and
I stole Dick's thunder, talking about what they did this morning.
okay,
They're gonna be meeting again next Tuesday and they're meeting again next Monday at 7:30 a.m. And then they're gonna meet again, I think, Wednesday or Thursday next week.
good. All right, town plumbing and gas inspectors, past and present, action requested.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm passing around, and been working with town council on this, a new employment agreement, that we've entered into with Stephen Peterson, to perform the position of wire inspector for the town. Now, under the bylaws is the town administrator appoints the inspector of wires. And again, I've worked this contract out with town council. Just some of the items in here. This contract takes us through June 30th, 2015.
This
Under-
isn't on the agenda.
Yes, it is. Town plumbing, gas inspector.
You said wiring inspector.
No, I'm gonna get to that. You don't have to approve this. This is gonna give me I'm describing what the plumbing and the gas is gonna be, which is gonna be identical to this.
It's a lead-in.
Okay.
It's a lead-in, exactly. So where it says wiring, for the sake of this item on the agenda, that would be replaced with plumbing and gas inspector. What I am doing is updating you that Stephen Peterson has been hired to do that. If you go into item number 3, he will work under the direct oversight and direction of the building commissioner. If you go to item number 6, the inspector will receive a per diem rate of $30 per inspection, again, under the direction of the building commissioner. We have new forms that have been printed out that are in triplicate, so that one form goes to the applicant, one form is for the rough inspection, one's for the final inspection. When those forms are signed off, they're submitted to the treasurer collector for payment with the department head sign-off. So again, he'll be receiving $30 per inspection. The building commissioner will oversee administrative staff that will be providing administrative work. And he'll also be paid 3 hours per week in exchange for being on call and to answer general questions from the public that are not related to a specific permit. So he will, in essence, have office hours. We'll be paying him a flat rate of 3 hours per week, and that hourly rate is $30 per hour. So here for the electrical inspector, this is the contract that he has entered into with the town to provide a wiring inspection services. This is the same form that I would be proposing to use with the town plumbing and gas inspector. The issue is the bylaws are silent on who appoints the plumbing and the gas inspector. It's very clear that the town administrator appoints the inspector of wires, but it does not have any language on plumbing and gas inspector. So the reason why this is on the agenda is to request the board to authorize the town administrator to also appoint the plumbing and gas inspector, just as I'm allowed to do that for the wire inspector. And in doing so, I would be using the same form and contract for whether it's plumbing or electrical.
How was it done in the past? Probably wasn't, because the wire inspector was here for 20-something years, wasn't he?
It's before computers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that if, the intent was for you to appoint one inspector, that even though it's silent in the bylaw about the gas inspector, one should presume that it was also the intent for you to do that. We probably ought to write a change to the bylaw too,
Yeah.
just to cover it,
That would have to be voted at town meeting.
and voted at town meeting.
Yeah.
But,
There are several things that the governance committee and others have identified in the bylaws that are not consistent.
right.
Okay.
So the thought was with the governance committee is to get through the few things of the
Right.
low-hanging fruit,
Yep.
and then after town meeting, then go through and really analyze the bylaws
Sure.
word for word. This would be a policy, if you accept my recommendation, to, basically you're delegating me to appoint the plumbing and the gas inspector, just like I already have the authority to do for the wiring inspector. And again, I would be using the same contract as related to, for either inspectors. And both inspectors will report directly to the building commissioner, and the building commissioner reports to the town administrator.
Excellent.
Is it your intent to have one-year appointments?
My intent is, yes, for these temporary per diem positions, is to annually do one-year appointments. We'll end up coming forward and having two electrical and two
Yep.
plumbing and gas, so we have a backup. So in essence, we'll have 4 inspectors that will, again, all report to the building inspector.
Now, you have per diem. Is it gonna be that, are they gonna be employees, or are they gonna be subcontractors?
They are employees, so they fall under our liability protection, but they're paid on a per diem basis.
Okay.
And again, it's well under the 19 hours and everything else.
So will they be eligible for retirement
Won't
benefits or
have
health
enough credits
benefits?
to do that. They won't be making the dollar amount
Okay,
to trigger that.
Through
just
you,
needed
Mr.
to
Chair.
ask.
Yes, ma'am.
Since we're speaking of the dollar amounts, it was clear on past discussions that we were going towards the $30 per hour or a per hour because they were getting paid 75% for each inspection. How did we phase out how they were being paid? Was it just that their contracts were coming due?
I actually can't talk about that in public session because it's a legal issue.
Gotcha. All right. But it's being done the right way.
You would hope it is.
But these are new contracts being drawn up, so they're being drawn up under,
No, I understand.
The rules, okay.
Nope, I do understand that. I just wanna make sure that this is like the step. This is the
This is a-
second step.
In legal
So I just
terms, this
wanna
is a
make-
contract reduced to writing, but the other contracts were verbal and they were implied contracts, right? I think you've talked to the lawyers and found a way to
So we
Correct.
can't
go
talk
about it the right way.
Correct.
but you can't talk about it, Jack, so. No more comments.
Thank you.
Sarah, did you have any questions of Mike? Been very quiet tonight. Okay. All right, you wanna vote on this? Can we get a motion from somebody, please?
I'll make a motion to support the town administrator in having the town plumbing and gas inspectors match the way we do the wire inspector, and that is to have the
Town administrator
plumbing and
appoint,
gas inspectors appoint the town.
appointed by the town administrator.
Appointed by the town administrator.
We could
And
probably shorten that a
knowing-
little bit.
Perfect.
Yes.
Elaine will.
They'll clean it up
And that's with the
afterwards.
understanding that the governmentness, I can't even speak at this
Governance
point,
Governance committee.
is talking about the bylaws and that down the
Yeah.
road it's gonna be all changed.
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion
You
to
know
allow,
what I meant, right?
a motion to delegate to the town administrator the authority to appoint the plumbing and gas inspector, and it's been
So then
seconded.
I just wanted in there that right now the town administrator has the authority to appoint the wiring inspector, so to be consistent. So you want that in the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments, questions, concerns, or recommendations? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous, Elaine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the minutes of April 1st, 2014.
I make a motion, we approve.
We have a motion,
I'll second.
and we have a second. Any comments, questions, concerns, changes? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, were there any other selectmen's comments? I just,
We didn't make any.
Yeah.
We're trying to streamline the meeting.
I will keep my mouth shut
No,
then.
that's up to the chairman. He'll bring it up when he wants to.
I've got to pick up some time here.
Yeah.
You guys have spent too much time lollygagging. We'll give everybody a chance to speak, not to
You
worry.
tired from your trip back from Florida?
I am.
Hey, you poor dear.
I didn't get home till 3:30 this morning, please.
Oh, my heart's bleeding.
Okay, approval for the use of Shirtlift Park for Carver Music Booth is Sunday, June 22nd, and Saturday, July 19th, noon to 3 p.m.
Make a
Motion to
we-
approve.
Okay, second.
We have two motions to approve in 1 second.
There's 2 dates.
Further comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor,
Aye.
please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, public comment period.
Wait a minute, you got another application in here.
Oh, yes, I do. I'm sorry. And Elaine did remind me of this, too. I'm still tired.
It snuck in under the wire.
Yes, we have a application for a one-day special license permit by the St. John the Baptist Club, and that is on April 26, 2014, 7:11 p.m.
I make a motion, we approve.
We have a motion,
I'll second that.
and we have a second. Any comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you for reminding me of that. Okay.
Should we do selectmen's before the
No, I
public
thought we'd do
comment?
the selectmen afterwards. Let the citizens make their comments, and then
Nice.
citizens. Stephen? Bob and Rich speak all the time. You're not here all the time, so we'll give you a break.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Steve Pratt, 16 Weston Street. I just wanted to, reflect on, the work that Michael's been doing with respect to the stabilization fund and, just kind of reflect the fact that it's been 3 years this week that we actually created the fund and we funded it, at 4 different town meetings and, what we envisioned it to be and looking back at prior year personal new property, new growth and as a taxpayer, and as a resident of 30 years, it's good that we are starting to move forward with our building projects. And I really thought that we could do something with the stabilization fund, and hopefully turn it into something else, and expand it, beyond that. So the fact that we have a school building committee, a fire station building committee, and we still have work to do, for the town building study committee and, trying to get it. But it's nice to see something moving forward. And I think that's the important message that you gotta get out of this. And, not to that, we're trying to, change gears or, getting away from what the intent was. The intent always was for it to grow, and the only thing that we needed to get was new personal property to make it grow and execute to the strategy. So, you know, I think it's something that, you know, we gotta, you know, stay the course on and not, you know, stray from it, because it's important to maintain our infrastructure.
Couldn't agree with you more. In fact, Mike's brought an expansive vision to what we initially promoted with the capital stabilization building fund. So I'm ecstatic to see it expanding like that and growing, and hope that, you know, future boards will continue to support that. And I see nothing but benefits for the community down the road.
Yep, and we all know the great importance of maintaining our own homes and, you know, maintaining, you know, our homes in the town, you know, the town buildings and the schools, and that's important for the residents today and for the residents of tomorrow, so, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
But Steve, I'd like to also give kudos to you and all the other advocates of the Building Stabilization Fund who fought and worked very hard over those years to even get it going.
But we
So-
gotta keep on fighting, because it all depends on those votes from town meeting. So we all have to stand up and emphasize that.
And I second Helen's comments. A lot of people out there may not be aware of it. Mr. Pratt played a significant role in helping get that capital building stabilization fund off the ground, so.
And I hope he's gonna continue to play a
Yes,
significant role. I
'cause
think he is.
Mr. Malinowski's gonna need all the help he can get, Steve, so he's got a lot of challenges coming up. Okay? Thank you. All right, thank you. Next, Robert.
Robert Belbin, 26 Gate Street. Just a couple of things is, the first thing is, we had our redevelopment authority meeting tonight, and we had the Collins report, it's just a draft one. And I just want to say that this is, right here now, it looks good. I guess there's going to be some more finagling with the numbers and whatnot.
Modifications as it's
Modifications,
reviewed.
whatever
right.
it is, but I want to say,
No
I
more
think-
finagling, Bob.
Okay, this is one of the, this is good. I'm so happy as being a member to be able to make sure that this happened.
Good.
I just want to make sure that people understand that this is a really good idea of where we have to go.
Excellent.
And what's been going on with these other committees and whatnot, and these other documents, as long as we follow them, I think we're gonna be in really good shape. So I wanna say kudos for that and moving forward here. One of the other issues I have is, and I don't want to sound mean, but when you're asking for votes, Mr. Chairman,
I'm not asking for votes.
no, but when you do, at this meeting, I've kind of noticed that Sarah is not really vocalizing anything over here. We can't hear any votes if she's not, and I don't know if she's saying yes or no, or,
I believe I
Anything.
say it's unanimous, or I say it's
Okay.
401, or, so, you know, some of us are soft-spoken, and you may not hear that.
okay.
I apologize for that, but I think you can get it from the end result that I relayed to Elaine.
Right, I just, like I said, I think a voice vote really should be put out there. Just
Louder.
my own opinion here, and, but, the final thing was, I gave something to Mr. Franny about the open meeting law. All right, hopefully that will be, addressed tonight and in the future, about how things are posted.
I think you probably should read it. And did you give it to me? Or
I
I'll
gave it
bring
to you,
Yeah,
and I don't
okay.
have a copy of it, so.
I'll bring it up when we go into.
When he makes
executive.
his remarks, we'll let him bring it up. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, there was just two paragraphs in that decision in there that I says, the posting when you go
Okay.
into executive session.
We appreciate you keeping us on center. None of us certainly want
I
to do
don't
anything.
want anybody to get in trouble or
Right.
anything with this. That's why I brought it up, and like I said, I don't wanna have
Okay.
to move forward that other way. I think that this is only the nice, open way of doing things. It's just
Excellent.
that everything is open,
Thank you, Robert.
okay?
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. All right, Rich.
Rich Kaiser, Meadowbrook Way. As we discussed prior to this meeting, I understand why you want to pass this on, but I would like to meet with Helen at your convenience, so we can discuss this.
Sure.
And I can have a better presentation if there's some flaws in that,
Laws in,
what I presented to you.
oh, that, okay.
Yeah, so we can maybe do some editing.
You know, Rich, you
Absolutely.
don't have to,
Yeah, you don't have to come here, you can
You-
just call me.
yeah, you can just approach the
then I'll-
selectmen. I mean,
Well, he did before the meeting,
Oh.
so.
Yeah, so, I mean, no, I was You changed my game plan. You caught me, I suspected you were going to do that, but I was hoping you would hang in there just a little bit longer,
Well,
at
I'm
least by
hanging,
the
I'm
fingernails.
hanging as long as I can, but the 26th, I'm done hanging. That's it. My sentence is over on the 26th, Rich.
I understand
years.
that, no,
9
you paid.
There'll be some new people with some new views and some new recommendations for solutions, and you know something? Work them to death. I'll give you any support you need to work them to death, okay?
Well, then we can always meet at the after
Sure,
hours,
absolutely.
and,
I'm not disappearing, I'll still be around.
but no, Jack, by the way, thank you for your support on, in
But
this.
we have your package.
Yeah.
Michael has your package. We haven't had a chance to read it, so
No,
obviously
no.
we can't discuss it at
No,
this
you
point.
can't, but it was, the game plan was
So,
to ram it down your throat, and
What I've done is
I'm gonna be honest with you, this is the only way I shoot. I shoot honestly, it's the way I am.
So what I've done is I've asked Mike if he would please pass that on to whoever the new chairman of the board is gonna be, and he'll have an opportunity to work on it.
Okay, with regards to Mike.
Yep.
I'd like to sit down in the coming days with you, because there's an idea that you brought up in regards to positions here and consolidating boards. I believe the town is gonna have to come up with a Department of Housing or something down the road.
Okay.
I think we have to plan on it at some point.
Let me give you a suggestion, okay?
Yeah.
If you wanna get to Mike, you have to see Elaine. She has his calendar, she controls his meetings and times, and everything. Just come into the office and talk to Elaine.
But I wanna get his approval to meet with him. I mean, after all, if he.
You're a citizen, you're a taxpayer, Mike works for you.
And we have a housing authority in town that get elected.
Yeah, but see, now, the design of the housing authority is basically separate from the town.
Our representative on that board is Jack Hunter, so maybe he'll be,
So, I mean,
brought into
If
the
you-
conversation.
Talk to Michael, he can put you in the right direction.
if you look at
We
housing.
delegate it to him.
If you look at housing authorities,
Richard, I thought we couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
Is that, am I mistaken?
Yeah,
no, I'm not, what I'm suggesting is housing authorities in general.
all right, have that in your discussion with him, okay?
Okay, all right.
Because what you're gonna be doing is repeating yourself over and over again. So you might as well just save it until you can sit down with Mike and
Okay.
discuss what you wanna do and what your
Okay.
expectations are.
After the election, when's the next meeting?
First, second
As
Tuesday.
soon as
in
possible,
May.
because they have to reconstitute the board and everything. Should be what, the
Probably have a
second?
quick meeting on the 29th?
I'm talking regular
I will not be here.
Regular schedule meeting.
Unless,
Second and fourth weeks of every month.
unless it's so close to have a recount, then we stay in office until
Yeah.
it's resolved.
Oh, please.
It's like the presidency. It's like the presidency.
There is a selectman candidate behind you, I suggest you give him.
I've got my time reallocated already. Don't
Give him
screw me
my
up now.
copy.
I mean, you can have the meeting, I just will be in Aruba.
Lucky you.
Oh, and she's talking about me, and I'm just in Florida.
So that's why
You
you're
were
so
in Key
tan.
West.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
All right, thanks, Rich. Keep up the good work and advocating for those folks over there. Okay,
I've had perfect attendance and I don't wanna miss a meeting, but you go right ahead and have a meeting.
Actually, I won't be able to be there either.
Oh, good. Can't
At
have
this-
a meeting.
at this time, we are gonna have our Board of Selectmen comments. Anybody has anything to offer, enlighten the rest of us with? You're all set? Okay, we're not gonna have an executive session. Jack, did you have anything?
Elaine, I'm gonna recuse myself.
I don't have any comments, but
There
I
is no
imagine you're gonna
executive
bring
session.
up about the events going on Saturday.
We're not going to?
No.
I see. Everyone knew.
I didn't have any comments, but I was gonna say there's three things going on, and maybe Mike or Helen will be bringing them up.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay, just a couple things. Mr.
Rich.
Kaiser, am I not important to you? I listen to you.
Rich, please have a seat and refrain until we get the meeting over with.
Last week, or a couple weeks ago, I had brought up a concern about K&P, that they were in the newspaper for losing their job in Hanson. They went out of their way to meet with me and to have conversation, and I have to say, it was a very nice conversation with a lot of information. And there's a lot going on. I'm actually pleased with the direction K&P is going. However, I would rather the town hear about what is going on at K&P, so Michael and I have talked to them about possibly coming in after the election to kind of chat in the open public about what's happening, and then we'll let everyone else give feedback, and I will continue to hear everyone's concerns, but I do have to say, it was a very pleasant and educational conversation I had, so I'll leave it at that. And there is, this coming Saturday, just a reminder that the Carver Elementary PTO is having the second annual Coyote Family Challenge, beginning at Miles Standish, starting at 9 a.m. So we're all in support of getting these schools going. Let's continue by supporting the organizations that help earn money for the schools. So if you're interested, I would recommend you go out to their website at www.carverpto.org to get the details of this challenge that is this Saturday. And it's also on the main page of our website.
Is that all?
Great week. Yes, sir.
There's two other things going on. I'll let Mike bring them up.
No, that's okay, go right ahead, feel free. You talking about the fire department graduation?
And the
And the
Council on Aging is having an open house at 9 o'clock.
I want to say everything.
Well, I was gonna leave it up to you. You're moving forward, I'm not. I'm all done. You need the kudos.
You don't need kudos.
Okay, Helen, are you all set?
Yes.
Jack?
I'm all set.
Sarah? Good, make it
We'll leave it
easy
up
on
to you, Mike.
everybody. Robert, you had your chance.
Well, Jack was gonna read the open meeting law, the two paragraphs.
I gave it to,
Read them out, just so everyone understands what.
well, I was gonna ask why we canceled the meeting. I think we should give executive session. Should give a reason.
He brought up. And I'd be happy to read it out loud, just to let you, because future selectmen are gonna have to deal with this also.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Mike?
we get, may I?
See, I asked you to do that in the beginning.
This was open meeting law complaint filed by Paul Johnson, and December 27th, 2011, all right? And what it was about posting executive session and executive session meeting minutes and stuff like that. But the posting that was posted for tonight's meeting said that you were going to executive session for non-union bargaining and union bargaining, negotiations of some sort. I forget the actual terminology. This paragraph I just want to read out loud. Although not specifically raised by the complainant, we find the board's March 29, 2011 meeting notice was not sufficiently specific to advise the public of the topics the board planned to discuss in executive session. The board's March 29, 2011 meeting notice lists only executive session, conduct bargaining with non-union personnel. This notice fails the requirement that the board list topics with sufficient specificity. The meeting notice should have specifically stated the board's intent to meet in executive session to conduct bargaining with the town administrator. Providing the public with this additional information would not have compromised the board's purpose to entering executive session, particularly because Mr. LaFawn was aware of the sessions and had been invited to attend the bargaining portion of the meeting. This level of detail would have put any interested member of the public on notice that there was a specific member of non-union personnel with whom the board was bargaining with. I think that in order for us as the public to know what you guys are gonna discuss in executive session, we need to know who the people you are discussing with, because we may want those executive session meeting minutes at a future meeting. How are we supposed to know who you were talking about in an executive session and to know what meetings we're looking for if we don't know who the people you're actually discussing? This is important for the public to know. And it's a very simple thing of doing, is just disclosing what unions you're discussing, whether it's the police, DPW, whatever it is, okay? Or it's the individual people that have contracts with the town, that we know who specifically you're negotiating or bargaining or discussing during that time frame in regards to contracting. So, I mean, I think that's what needs to be held, and like I said,
Your points are duly noted.
okay, thank you. Like I said, I didn't want anything else to come of this.
Nope.
If anything was down the pike, because this was from 2011.
Right.
And like I said, we're still held accountable, whether it's 2011, any boards that change over.
And, you know, Bob talked to me about this, I was gonna bring it up, I didn't realize that we were not gonna have this tonight, you know, so.
If
And
I-
I just think, if we're not gonna have it, we should give a reason why we're not gonna have it.
In relation to this language that was just written, this is, if you will, half of the issue. Whenever you're discussing any type of discipline, dismissal, conduct issues, anything that has to do to an employee's performance, you are prohibited by law from putting their name onto the notice.
With all due respect, then you need to make that notice, because this is about, what was posted was about bargaining and negotiation wise. So if it's something other than that, I totally understand and I agree
Okay.
with that. It's just the way it was posted
Yep.
out there to let, like I said,
Yeah,
if it's about that, if it's discipline and stuff, I totally understand the personnel issues. I have no problem with that,
Okay.
because it's protecting their privacy, and I'm 100% in favor of that.
Fair enough, and to answer, I think, Mr. Franny's question, the intent was for this evening that if I had some additional feedback from either the clerical, the DPW union, the police union, that I would bring those forward. So I can certainly list those three unions next time. We list these out ahead of times in anticipation of how negotiations are going on. Sometimes there's no information to bring back. But because we do have wage reopeners and contract issues, that if something comes up, because we are in discussions, that placeholder is on the agenda for that to happen. But we can certainly add in, again, the three unions that would be tied into this.
But you, in this posting, it said non-union.
Correct.
I
That's the
think-
standard language that the attorneys put together. But
Yeah.
to answer your question, yes, we can provide some additional clarity as to the groups, if you will, that would be involved, or the positions.
That's fine. Yeah, I think that would be, would cover it. Like I said, it's just openness of government to let people know
No,
what's
and
going on.
have no problem doing that.
Thank you very much.
Again,
I
just-
appreciate-
Just be aware that anything that has to do with personnel or discipline,
I understand that.
the individual has a right to privacy until they want it to go something differently.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I totally agree.
Yep.
Thank you very much. I
Okay.
appreciate
Same page.
it.
Thank you. All right. With that, we announced the fire department graduation. We give the times.
Well, no, you're gonna
It
do
was
it.
changed to 1:30, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Okay, and the Council on Aging open house is at
9 o'clock.
9 a.m. Okay.
And
To 10 a.m.? Okay, so I'm
Oh, it
getting
was
bad
9
advice
too.
from my colleague up here.
Yeah.
Okay. Bad information, I should say, not advice. But, okay. On that note,
Motion to adjourn.
I'm not done.
Okay.
Please keep all of our servicemen and women in your thoughts and prayers.
I'm sorry.
God bless all of you, the town of Carver, and the United States of America. Now I'll accept the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Comments, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?